Wait. Just hang on a second. Before you buy that property, that 50 by 100 plot of piece of land. By the way, for those who don't know, the 50 by 100 piece of land in Kenya is a quite popular one. And you know what? Almost everyone is struggling the best they can to make sure that they buy that properties. Some of them don't even do what you call the due diligence, okay? And guess what? On this video, I'm going to share with you 6 things that you're supposed to consider before you even buy that piece of land. And guess what? The only thing I want you to do on this category is 5 things only. Number 1, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Why subscribe? Because I upload a video each and every day, so you'll be notified. Number 2, like the video. Why? Because if you like the video suggested more, we get a bigger family free. Make sure that you comment on the comment section. That way we can interact with you. And number 4, make sure that you go ahead and share the video if you're in a position to. Number 5, make sure that you give me a smile. Let's get into the business now. Here we are. Before you even embark on buying that piece of land, by the way, if you were to do a survey in Kenya, go to any random city or town, grab somebody and ask them, what's your next mission? They'll tell you, I want to buy a piece of land somewhere because I want to do 1, 2, 3 is a thing. But before you do exactly that, these are the things that you're supposed to consider. Number 1, before you even talk about anything, is the genuinity of that piece of land that you want to buy. Why? Because if you violate the first principle, which is, remember that principle? The first time we get money or when we get money is not necessarily about investment. It's about capital preservation. So if you go buy something that is not even genuine out there, you lose it at the end of the day. Have you ever bought a land and then you find that it's actually under the riparian land, it's actually a road reserve, it's a railway reserve, and all those kind of things? Just because it's affordable and what have you, just get your reserve, your savings, boom, you buy the property. The next minute, the bulldozers are there bringing down all what you brought up and all those kind of, or maybe the land actually, repossessed by the actual owners. So it becomes a bit hectic. So go ahead and confirm the genuinity of the land. I'm not going to stress on that because I'm not a surveyor myself, but I know the tips on how you can get the genuine land and all those kind of things. Okay, by the way, those are the point. The point is, first point you're supposed to consider is that why do you need the land or want the land? Or do you need the land or do you want the land? There's a difference between need and want. I'm going to give you a two case scenario here, or a case scenario here. We have Kevin here and we have the John. These are 2 different individuals. So John goes by and buys the property. Now, maybe say John is a friend to Kevin. Kevin now sees that the John has bought the land. Now Kevin goes and buy the property. And then after some time, say a month or 2, then the guy starts to do what we call the value addition. But the guy does not have the capacity to do the same. See, some of the guys usually buy properties just because we have this traditional belief that, hey, guess what? You have to buy the property. Once you get the money, buy the property, do this, do that. You cannot even build your own home. You cannot even do what we call the rentals. You cannot even do some farming there. You cannot do nothing. So the point, do you need it? And if you need that land, so the question is, why do you need it for? What do you need it for? Is it for building your own home? If yes, then ask yourself, okay, fine. I bought this property because I want to build my home from that property. But now the question is, from today, when I buy this property, to when I will build that home, in between, how long is the period? For example, it does not make any sense if you took like 4 years or 3 years to accumulate, let's say, $1 million bob, or let's say 500,000 to buy that piece of property. And then you're telling me in 1 year's time, I won't go ahead and build a house worth like 5 million. On a very serious note, unless something happens, of which I'm not actually ruling out that it's not possible, it's very much possible, but that is it's close to pure luck. Okay, so the point is this: have you ever find somebody who bought a piece of property somewhere, they bought it, they stay for the next 6 or 7 years, they've never gotten the capacity to actually go ahead and do what? Do value addition or something of sort. Now that brings me to the next point. Is your cash flow okay? What do I mean by cash flow? Cash flow is the liquid. How liquid are you? Do you have the money? And I'm going to use an example I told you last time. I had a client who called me and told me, guess what, Joseph, I'm being paid 55,000 per month. And by the way, that's a good cash in Kenya. That's like $500 or something of sort, or $550 thereabout. So the guy, that's what he earns in a month. And guess what happens now? Because this traditional way of belief that you must get a land and all those kind of things. So the guy went ahead and did what? Went ahead and bought a property, and didn't have the money actually. What he did, he used what you call the land financing. And the banks, or rather the bank financing, the bank actually assisted the guy to acquire the property at 1.2 million. And then the guy, guess how much was being deducted from his salary? 25,000 Kenyan shillings. Basically half of whatever he's actually getting. Close to half what, I mean, come on, you just tell me the guy is left with like 26 G's or 25 G's or thereabout. Now tell me, how do you expect that guy to survive, pay his rent, pay the school fees, buy the bill, or black tax and everything, transportation and all those kind of things. How does this guy even survive on that basis? So it becomes to a point whereby you sacrifice your cash flow in the name of acquisition of a property or an asset that is not generating any cash flow. So in between, you get caught up in the trap whereby you have a property somewhere and you're struggling financially. Have you ever come across people who have some property somewhere but they're struggling financially? It is because of such decision. There is a time, and this is what I want you to get, my brothers and sisters. There is a time you need the property and you have the ability to acquire the property. And there is a time when you really do not have the capacity to buy that property. Focus on the cash flow. Focus on growing the money, expand the money, invest, and all those kind of things. Number 3 is that, do you have the capacity to do what we call the value addition? For example, I'm going to give you 2 case scenarios. Somebody who has the capacity to borrow like 15 million, someone can borrow only 2 million. This guy of 15 can actually borrow, or rather can borrow, buy the land and do the infrastructure. That is the rentals or what have you. This guy do not have the thing. And then you find this guy do not have the capacity. So it's always good to buy that property. I know you're doing what we call the land financing, or rather not land financing, but rather land banking. There's nothing wrong with doing the land banking, but at the same time, it's also good to consider the factors of, guess what, this land, I'm looking forward to doing the value addition on this time, on this, and all those kind of things. So otherwise, you can just get a property, becomes very hard for you to actually value add into that, to a point whereby some people can even tell you, hey, guess what, I just want to liquidate this property, try to get my money to something else which can actually earn me some cash, and you get yourself in the caught up. And when you get yourself in the caught up, that is the hardest thing to get yourself out of, because sometimes even selling these lands, it becomes a little bit hard for that thing. The other thing that you're supposed to consider is where is the location of that land. You know, the far it is from the big cities and towns and what have you, the cheaper or affordable it becomes. So because you have this stereotypical understanding, or this kind of a belief that you have to get that land now, so you end up buying anywhere, provided it's land. It has to be anywhere. Then you take your 300,000 or 500,000, you go through it in 400 kilometers from where you live. You go through that 400 kilometers where land appreciates at a rate of 2% or 3%. Where else you could have gotten that money and put it somewhere else where it's earning you something, of which I'm going to discuss about in the next part. So the point is this: it is good to make sure that at least, yeah, I'm getting this 400%. Where can I afford this land? I'm affording this land, let's say 100 kilometers from where I live, 400 kilometers from where I live, sometimes even 1,000 kilometers from where you live. Now you ask yourself, even if I was to do some value addition, let's say maybe I just want to do a perimeter wall in that property of mine, do some poultry farming, do some goat farming, do some dairy farming, if I can be able to start, maybe even if it's 1 cow or 2 or bulls, maybe if I want to do the animal fattening, or want to do something like vegetable farming and something of sort. You actually did buy that specific property way far from even where you work. Even when you look at, I'm not saying that area cannot develop. It can, totally it can. But even if you are, of which I support your acquisition of land, don't say like Joseph said, we should not buy land. We should, but even if you are to go and buy that land worth 500,000 in a place which is remote, should not sacrifice your present day. Some people are so much, intrigued by their future, they even disregard the present. They even make themselves, I don't know how it can be. Have you ever been in a situation whereby you live in the present, or rather you live in the future, and you forget and disregard the present? That's what happens in the name of acquisition of that property. If then you know that 400,000 won't affect your cash flow, it's okay, you can buy the property, because land appreciates, and that's for sure, it can actually. But do not just buy with that dear money, the only money that you have. In Swahili, we say mbele na nyuma. And it's the only cash that you have. You go there, buy that property. And then you remain zero. You go back to square one. You take another 3 years or 4 years to save another 400,000. Even if you are to take that 400,000, go to the property that you bought 4 years ago to actually do some value addition, it is not even possible. Electricity has not even reached that place. You cannot even do farming. It's far from you. 400 cannot even buy you, cannot even build your home. You can't build rentals. You can't do nothing. So 8 years down the line, you have not done anything. Can you just imagine if you embarked on investing in a money market fund for the last 8 years? If only 5,000 per month continuously in a period of 10 years with a rate of 13% as an average gets you $1 million, Bob, How long or how much would you get if you were to commit into that? And then again, you can be able to acquire properties later as you move forward. Sometimes you have to accept the reality and try as much as accept but don't appreciate, and then you move towards acquisition that property in a way that is not affecting your present you. That's what we call the financial freedom, and also financial literacy and understanding some nitty-gritties here and there. The other thing, the last part of this thing is that land appreciate versus the investment rate. So you have to compare these two things. The rate at which this land is appreciating vis-a-vis the rate at which this investment is giving me. You have to take a pen and paper and ask yourself, if I take this money and put it in a money market fund, I'm gonna get say 13 or 14%. Okay, if I put this money in, say, in a treasury bills in the next year, that means it's around 16.8. If you get it in a treasury bill, gains me 16%. This land is appreciating at 7%. So I'm looking forward into maybe say doing a value addition after 5 years. So this is what I'm gonna get using money market fund with. This one I'm gonna get using the bills with. I'm gonna get using the bonds with, and this is what I'm getting from the land. So if I disregard buying the property today, obviously the property will increase in price, but it will increase at what rate compared to you get the thing. When you do all those calculations, then you can be able to get the best deal in town. But when you disregard any other options out there in the name of acquisition of land, then you can get yourself into properties, into problems. Can you just imagine this? You didn't confirm the genuinity of the land. You lose the money. You are prospecting on the land banking. Now, you even lose the principal capital that you have. And then you disregard somewhere the location is and all those kind of things. So anyway, if I can just recap exactly what I've talked about. First of all, you have to compare the genuinity of the land. For God's sake, don't lose the money. That's the first principle. Number two, make sure that at least you understand, do you need the land or do you want the land? Do you need it or do you want it? Differentiate those two factors. And number two, it's your cash flow. Is your cash flow okay, or is it affected? If it is not affected, then you can go on and buy that piece of property. But if then you are sacrificing your cash flow in the name of acquisition of this property, then there's something wrong in the process. The other thing is that, do you have a capacity to go ahead and do some value addition in that property? Then if you do not, then you have to rethink and try to find out exactly what will be the best thing to do in that case. The other thing is that I have to compare the rate at which the land is appreciating, compare that with what you could get if you were to go what we call the investments way. That way you can be able to see whether you're getting the best deal in town. Okay, and the last thing is where is the location of that specific property. So if you are to compare those factors, then buying that specific thing, that is good to make sure that at least, before you buy that property, you already know, I'm getting the best deal, I'm getting an otherwise deal, I'm getting whatever, so that at least you do the best thing as far as the investments are concerned. Guys, guess what? That marks the end of my video, but don't forget, if you'd like to have a conversation with me, my number is always there on the description of this specific video. You can grab it, let's have a discussion. And I'm not a paramount of all the ideas, and that's why I always encourage you, leave a comment on the comment section. Tell me what experience do you have, or did you have when maybe say you bought your property, and what are you doing with the property right now? How is it faring up? Do you regret the decision? Or if you do not regret the decision, then can you give us a tip? There's somebody whom I made a certain video, and the guy said, hey, guess what? I didn't have a lot of money. I bought myself a property worth around 450,000. I did a semi-permanent perimeter wall, and I'm doing my vegetable farming, and it's doing good. And guess what? I've actually managed to buy another property. You see, now that's a brilliant idea that you can share with people. Therefore, they can consider to buy a property where there is an availability of water, and then they can be able to do some other value addition. And value addition here does not mean you have to bring up a flat. You can do some goat farming, you can do some animal fattening there, you can do some pottery, you can do some vegetable farming, and such kind of things. So you can do something. So at least don't let that land lie idle somewhere. If you really so much into getting that land, go get it, but make sure that at least you ask yourself all these questions, and if they all tick to a point of go get that piece of property, then get it. But don't forget one thing, consider asking yourself, how can I be able to value add this so that it can generate something at the end of the day? Always being in mind like, hey, I'm Jane, I'm buying this property. There is someone by the name Josephine. Maybe she didn't buy the property, the money is a money market fund, so it's growing daily. And also, how can I actually do with this property that I have so that I can as well register that growth? Not only I'm banking on the land appreciation. That way, we're gonna be able to do an amazing thing as we move to the next level. Okay, for now it's a goodbye, and see you in the next one.